Mindset is not, it's not just a belief system, it's a
Mhm.
practice. And
Mm,
there's a big
yeah.
difference.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, excited to have Kelly Resendez. Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Excited to
Awesome.
be here, Todd.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the show. And a little bit about Kelly, in addition to being a mom, she's a business executive at GoodLeap, a multi-billion-dollar fintech company, best-selling author and influencer. And she's also the co-owner of GoBundance Women, which is a membership organization for women dedicated to achieving greatness and abundance. And we'll dive into kind of that tribe and what that is. And then just, man, I'm just excited to hear your story and how you've been doing awesome things in the industry. So, Kelly, with that said, give our listeners a bit more about your background,
Yeah.
what we need to know, and we'll dive in.
Great. Well, I'll tell you, I was a classic overachiever, perfectionist from a very early age. When I look back at, to even childhood memories, I was always the one that wanted to raise their hand first and get a lot of the attention that
Yeah,
was
you're the
out
goody
there.
two shoes. Great. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that did serve me well. I went into the mortgage industry at a young age. I just had a great opportunity just while being in high school to work in a bank and stayed at that
Mm,
bank for 16 years. And within several years of jumping into the mortgage industry, went into the top 1% of loan officers in the nation. And what I truly accredit that success to was looking at what everyone else was doing and deciding to do something a lot different. So
mm,
that was a big way, a big differentiator for myself within the mortgage industry. With that said, creating a massive amount of wealth and success at a young age came at a very, big cost. I had no idea that I was truly miserable inside. From the outside, looked like I had it all, the 6,000 square foot mansion, the second home, all the things. And, deep down, I really wasn't fulfilled emotionally and was not healthy physically. Stress was just a normalized part of my life, not
mm.
sleeping and worrying about deals and pleasing people and whatnot. And I had my awakening, fortunately, in 2004. So I've been 20 years now in personal growth and development. And, I truly believe that was just a pivotal moment where, it changed the way that my business operated, where before I added a lot of value from a business building standpoint to the real estate community. And where it really shifted was that I started to add more value, more value on creating an extraordinary life, experiencing more joy in spite of what's happening, letting go. So there are a lot of things that happened during that time. So I stayed in mortgage until 2011 before I joined GoodLeap. And really, it was a smaller company at the time. And we've really, grown it to, like you said, just this amazing, multi-billion dollar company. We're the largest solar financing company, and we're in the home improvement space as well. And what I really, what I'm most proud of on that journey is that I was able to create a lot of ands along the way too. So not only was I doing that, I feel like I was a great mom. I practiced conscious parenting. I still gave back and contributed at a high level and was able to publish a couple books and been speaking professionally as well. I think when you want to have impact in the world, it becomes, just that guiding light for really everything that I've done in my career.
Love it. Love it. That's a lot. What was there anything like an aha moment or something that struck you in 2004 that said,
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong track, or was just like, I'm just burned out?
No, to be honest, my mom had been diagnosed with dementia a couple years before.
Mm,
My grandmother had passed away from cancer. And I was at a place where, I'd had my daughter in 2003. And I honestly, it was just one of those moments where you realize, like, oh my goodness, like, this is not the life that I wanted to create for myself. And I am
mm,
the only one that has the power to change it. And somebody recommended the book Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That's what exploded my world.
Hmm.
As before that, I didn't even know that my thoughts weren't who I was. I truly believed that what I was thinking all day long was who I was. And once I really separated from my thoughts and I started to see, like, wow, these are just thoughts, it's not reality, I was able to, kind of go on that journey and do a lot of, self-discovery and figure out a lot of strategies to be able to overcome the overthinking. Because when you're an
Yeah.
overachiever, chances are you're an overthinker
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
And sometimes our thoughts don't drive us in the right direction.
Yeah. A lot of times they don't. Yeah. It's crazy to think that like a lot of the quote unquote things that you think are realities in the world it's not
Yeah.
truth, right? There are certain realities, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that we think in our daily life that are important or meaningful or whatever that it's just what we're told we're telling ourselves, and we can
Yeah.
change that line of thinking. So that's really cool.
And what's interesting is, being in the mortgage industry, if anyone's out there in mortgage and real estate, there's always leaderboards. Everything's competitive
Mm,
and it really gets you.
yeah,
It really can pull you in because you're experiencing success through the lens of other people. And so it's not really like, oh my gosh, I feel fantastic. I feel successful. I feel like I'm winning, because you can never feel that way because you're constantly trying to make sure that you're staying, at the front of the pack. And so it really, it was a blessing. I'm so grateful for my career in mortgage. I'm so grateful for everything that, happened in the way in which it did. And then I had this awakening at such a young age because, like I've said, I've been able to spend 20 years now in personal growth and development. And that's really enabled me to help other people to the level that I get to.
it's wild to think that 2004 was 20 years ago.
I know.
When you just
I
said that, I was
know.
like, what are you talking about? 20? Oh, wait. Yep.
Yes.
That is 20 years ago.
Yep.
Wow. It's crazy. Aging myself here. Um, y- you said something that I thought was really interesting. A lot of people will look at what others do and they'll say, okay, I got to do that. I'm just going to try to do what they do. Maybe I do it a little bit better, but I'm going to do what they do. I'm going to take, but you said that you looked at what other people are doing and you did something different. How,
Yes.
like, explain that mindset, and is that a strategy you still use today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's two ways to really study what other people are doing. There's definitely, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If there
Mhm.
are strategies that are proven and work, you can definitely borrow those. But the other part of it is that when you're in a sea of competitors, right? It is really challenging to differentiate yourself. And as much as we want to believe our product or our service is what the differentiator is,
Yeah.
it's more challenging to do. Everybody was slinging mortgages back in the day. When I look
Especially
back
during that
then,
all the way
competition
through that
was,
2004 time, right?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I started in 98. And so it's one of those things that everyone, wherever you went, to the bank, on the freeway, wherever, on the radio, there was a lot of competition out there. And so
Mhm.
what I knew was that in order to really, make an impact within the real estate community, I was going to have to build a brand for myself. And that's what I didn't see my competition doing. They
Mm.
built their value based off of what they did with loans. I created value teaching them how to build their business. Now, what that meant is I had to learn and study all the different ways that they could build their businesses and be able to help them with business plans and goal setting and accountability. And so I started speaking. I had what I called realtor coaching events. That was the other thing that I did different. Most people did one-on-one. They'd take one person to coffee. And I'm like, my time is way more
Yeah.
valuable than that. I'm going to put 30 people in a room
Love
and I'm
that.
going to get them all at one time. And I'm going to be the authority on whatever it was that I was talking about. And so I think today I still do that, to be honest. I think when you are a speaker, there is that authority that comes along with it. But my life and how I live it is also a testament of what, what's working. And to be honest, we know that so many people wake up every day and they're stressed about what they have going on. They're not waking up grateful. They're not waking up joyful. So I'm going to live different. I don't choose to live that way. Like I want to wake up every day like, oh my goodness, it's a new day. It's, full of amazing opportunity and possibilities. So how am I going to approach it in a way that I end the day in the same way?
When times are tough, that's a nice mindset to try to talk about. How do you actually live that
Yeah.
mindset? Are there strategies that, you think are helpful when times are,
Yeah.
times either financially difficult, they can be just, man, you're in a season of where it's like everything is just so stressful, whatever it might be. I'm sure there's people listening that are going through stuff. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, Todd, what a great question because, part of my mission is to teach people how to experience joy while simultaneously suffering. And I've
Mm,
had a lot of opportunity in that space in my career and in my life. And so the first thing that I would say is that mindset is not, it's not just a belief system, it's a
mhm,
practice. And
mm.
there's a big
Yeah.
difference. So
Yeah.
when we talk about mindset, yes, it's great to possess these beliefs. The more important aspect of mindset is that it's action oriented. How do I respond in the face of adversity? How do I show up for people when they're struggling? There's a lot to it. And so the first thing that I would say is that you've got to prepare every day for challenges that are on the horizon. We will never live a life without challenges, whether it's aging parents, in our industry, rising interest rates where the feds absolutely, did something they'd never done before. There are things that you can't predict. And so when you're training, you are training every day so that when the storm hits, that you have that, that skill set that really allows you to get through it. And so the first thing that I would tell you is that understanding just how to soothe and talk to yourself during that time. The first thing that I say to myself, no matter what I'm experiencing, is that reminder everything is always working out okay for you. Doesn't matter how things
Yeah.
have been, doesn't matter how hard they are. Everything's always working out okay for you
Yeah.
because our brain it's just this protective machine wants to try to create stories and it wants to try to create a lot more danger that might be on the horizon. So it's one of those things that I would say when you learn a strategy to really just manage emotional triggers where you're like, I got this one nailed. It doesn't matter what it is because where we get this emotion, this stress from, because I like the way that I experience life today is pretty, it's just a lot of joy. And there's a lot of challenges. I just don't see them that way. It's almost, just this experience of like, how do I stay in joy in spite of these things using this strategy? And I call it, basically a trigger management system. And I just have a system for dealing with it. And what I've found where suffering comes from is just having preferences for the external world that are never going to always be met. And the minute you start to let go of them, you just let go of more preferences and more preferences and more preferences. And you get to the point where you're like, everybody can just do their own thing. And I'm not going to worry about what God does. I'm going to worry about how I show up. And that's really the practice that I use to be able to stay in joy in spite of anything that happens.
Man, Kelly, that was awesome. Um, yeah, your mindset is a muscle, right? And so
Absolutely.
we go to the gym, we work out, and we just think that somehow we're gonna have this perfect mindset without putting the effort into it. It's just not gonna happen. And so I love listening to, audible books and podcasts and just reading. That's a big part of what I like to do, to make sure my mindset's right. And of course,
Yeah.
you know, through prayer, meditation, whatever you do. But I think those are great ways to just keep building that muscle and and growing in your mindset because it's a journey, like you said. It never
Yeah.
ends.
Well, and there's different pieces to it. So for one, when you say it's like a muscle, you've got to train it every day. So for anyone listening, if you don't have a morning ritual, and your life isn't where you want, if you create one, I can pretty much guarantee, money back guarantee, right? That your life will improve, because gratitude is also a practice. Gratitude's a part of life that if you experience gratitude in any season, you will feel and
Yeah.
experience life with way more joy. And so
100%.
creating that morning ritual and then having a disruptor, like making a decision that when I feel like our body has such an innate intelligence, a warning system to tell us like, oh, I'm feeling, a certain way,
Hmm.
you need to be able to stop it a little earlier, because your brain's going to ruminate. It's going to go rogue
Mm,
on you, and it's going to, try to
yeah.
figure out what's going to happen, and you're going to feel a lot more stress. And just ask yourself in that moment, like, do I have a decision to make? If I don't have a decision to make, I'm not going to give it any more thought. Like, there's just not going to, I have just chosen in my life, if I don't have a decision to make, there's no sense in focusing on it. Period. Plain and simple. And so much suffering comes from someone thinking the same things over and over and over and over again about something that they don't even have the power to make a decision over. It
Yeah.
might be, if an employee leaves you, or a relationship ends, or any of these other things happen. Like, if you don't have a decision to make, it just is, sometimes you just have to learn how to sit in the fire for a little while, and be able to soothe that 5-year-old self that we have in all of us that really wants to get our own way most of the time.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. It's easy to dwell in the stuff that's not going right.
It
And
is.
it's so
But
easy to
that's just neuroscience.
it
That's what
is.
people have to realize, is that our amygdala can get hijacked in a
Hmm.
nanosecond. And so
Hmm.
part of my journey in the last 20 years was really becoming obsessed with, okay, if I can see my brain as separate from who I really am, and I understand the operating system in which my brain exists, I have a lot higher chance that I'm going to train it. I'm going to train it what it needs to do. Instead of facing danger, instead of going into fight or flight, like, I need to retrain it and soothe it and just make sure that it knows, like, everything's okay. Like, we're not in danger. We're good. Somebody didn't like what you said or did, and that's okay. Like, we just need to, take a step back and not allow it to, create that emotion that would typically come after that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Like things can get tough, but it's if you have that kind of ritual, those stop points that you're saying, hey, you know what? I get that this is challenging, this is frustrating, this is whatever, but man, I'm so thankful for
Yeah.
these things. It's I think it doesn't mean that stuff goes away, but
Yeah.
it makes it more bearable. It makes it easier to kind of
Yeah.
maybe push
Absolutely.
away, right? Push away those negative thoughts. So
And and when you see challenges, so much of our value as entrepreneurs or wealth creators, or whatever you want to refer to yourself as, is your ability to get through them.
mm,
Your navigation of challenges is your value proposition. And so, and sometimes I'll be honest, sometimes we need to have a good old fashioned pity party. Like, have a pity party, just put an end date on it. Like, I'm going to give
yeah,
myself an
be done
hour
with it. Yeah,
to
you're right,
feel
right, right.
completely sorry for myself. And then I'm going to set my timer, and now I'm going to step back into my power, because that's really where mountains are moved. And
Mhm.
for those of you that are entrepreneurs or whatnot, like, the challenges are what get you to the next level. That person that did everything in your office that quits, and now it feels like the worst thing in the world, but you're able to up level and really just get somebody that's going to take on even more for you, is what's typically right around the corner. And we have to constantly remind ourselves of that, is that in every challenge, it's just an opportunity. And I'll be honest with you, Todd, I've kind of gamified life at this point. Like, I've looked at it as just, life's just a game. It's going to keep throwing different things at me, and I just need to keep moving. I
Yeah,
need to keep moving forward. And if something's not working, I will really go deeper in one area. And that's what I would tell you, that, focus for anyone listening is one of the greatest skills that you can master, because especially if you're into personal growth and development, and my guess is if you're listening, you're trying to improve yourself. When you focus on too many things at one time, you don't go deep enough.
Mm.
And so I really recommend, especially for leaders, is doing like a quarterly focus where it's like, hey, all quarter, I'm going to focus on reducing emotional triggers. And then I'm going to focus on, becoming a little bit more detached. So I experience less, you know, I would say just disappointment. And then the next quarter, I'm going to work on setting strong boundaries for my time, and really go deeper in one area, because there's just so much information. And when you overload your brain, it's not going to produce the results that you really want.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Before we jumped on and started talking, you talked about people sabotaging themselves. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the mindset and
Yeah.
sabotaging. Is there anything else that you said I love talking about that. And so I want to make sure I give you the floor and the opportunity to talk about,
Yeah.
how people sabotage themselves.
Yeah. Well, I could probably talk for days on how people sabotage themselves. Because let's be honest, the only
Yeah.
reason why you aren't where you are is because of you. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, as
100%.
much as we would love to be a victim, and you know what? Your
A lot of
parents could
people
be
play it.
this and this and this, and we could go on and on and on. But we
Mhm.
all have that moment in our life where we can take radical ownership that we are the creators. And when you do, it will change everything. And
Yeah.
so, when I look at self-sabotage, there is such a wide variety of subtle ways that we sabotage ourselves. And some of them are just, a little bit of our mindset that's skewed. Maybe we procrastinate, or we're a people pleaser. I'm in recovery for that, by the way, relapse on a regular basis. And there's just so many other subtle ways, but I'm going to dig into, just a couple of the ways that I would say that leaders sabotage themselves. Sorry, my lights just went out. I wasn't moving enough. Um, the first way I would say is the belief that you have to do it all alone.
Mm.
And when you feel like you have to do things alone, the heaviness of that really can, create kind of cement around you, because everything is going to be experienced differently. And what I would say is one of the greatest skills that we can master, and we've never been taught, is to ask for help, is
Yeah.
to really be able to
Yeah.
articulate our needs. My big mission is to rewrite the laws of female leadership. I am passionate about it. And part of that is rewriting the way that women ask their partners to support them in the home.
Mm.
Because, my journey as an executive for the last 13 years, I still had to worry about the dentist appointments. I still had to worry about, did my kids get this done or get that done or get that done? And all of these other things simultaneously while I was doing this. And it really is, that ability to ask for help and to articulate what we need is a superpower. When you look at some of the challenges that face, entrepreneurs, one of them is, how do I raise capital? Well, you're not going to raise it if you don't ask for help. Who
Yeah.
are you going to ask for help? Who's done it before? Who do they know? What's going on? Like, you need to build your business. How do you get more referrals? What's the greatest way that you can support me? The greatest way I need support is to be connected with ambitious female leaders that want to scale and take their life to the next level without sacrificing their health or relationships. That's my avatar. I need to tell every single person that I need to be connected with those people. Most of us don't do that. Like, I will tell you, we give and we give and we give, and then we empty. And that's normally where burnout comes, which is one of the greatest challenges with self-sabotage. Feeling like I need to do it alone. I do it alone. I do it alone. I do it alone. And then I burn out, and then I start over again. And that's one major way, that people do that. The second one that I would really say is that it kind of goes hand in hand. You don't create, an advisory group in your life. I'm sure everyone has heard, you're as successful as the 5 people you surround yourself with. It is absolutely imperative that you have that board of directors in your life. And most of us have friends that we grew up with, friends that we met through our, kids, and they're all amazing people. but are they going to hold you accountable, Todd? Are they going to say, you know what,
Yeah.
Todd? Hey,
Yeah.
do I have your permission to give you a little feedback? Sounds a little victimish to me. Like, what's a more powerful statement? Is there any way you could restate that for me?
Yeah.
Like, our brain is always listening. And I need people around me that are going to hold me to that next level of like, hey, so are you going to complain or what's your next best step? What are you going to do about that?
Right.
And really, that's where masterminds come in. That's part of why I helped create Go Abundance Women. In my last book, Big Voices, I dedicated an entire section on learning how to be lonely. I actually wanted to teach people how to be lonely because at that point in my life, I thought that was the only way, until I found mastermind communities and realized, like, well, I'm the creator. Why don't I just create a group of amazing female leaders that are out there that are also, trying to get to the next level? Because what I don't need is somebody saying, what, you're going to do that now? Like, how are you going to have time for that? Well, are you going to sacrifice this? No, I want someone to say, how can I help you? Who can I connect you with? What's the next best connection that's going to change your life and get you there so much faster? So that's the other way is I would say just not creating that peer advisory group. Whether it's Go Abundance, we have Go Abundance Women and there's Go Abundance Men as well, YPO, EO, Vistage. There's a lot of different options that are out there for communities of other like-minded people, but you want to have that board of advisors in your life.
Yeah, Kelly. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is most people that you come in contact with, most people that you went to high school with, went to college with, whatever, hang out with, they don't have that growth mindset that you were
Yeah.
talking about earlier. They're not sitting here saying, "How do I become better every single day?" And so when you have a problem, they are happy to hear your problem and to give you more problems,
Yeah.
right? And talk about their problems,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to get you out of that
Yeah.
situation and help guide you
Yeah.
and hold you accountable, right? Quite frankly, and say, "Hey, suck it up." They That's typically not the response from your typical friend or family member.
Yeah.
And when you do say, "Hey, I'm going to do this amazing thing," most of them are like, "Ooh, that seems really hard," or
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
having
And
that advisory group
for
is
sure.
so powerful.
And it's, one of the things that we do in Go Abundance is you're put in a pod with 4 to
Mhm,
5 other, female leaders that are similar to yourself. And we also do what are called wisdom circles when you've got big decisions to make.
mm,
I believe we all have that deep intuitive knowing. We all know the answer, but sometimes we need a little bit of that social proof. We need people to ask us deeper questions because our subconscious mind is so powerful that a lot of times we can't see the answer because of fear or because we've been there in a similar place before or whatnot. And like to your point, if I'm in a boat that feels like it's sinking, I don't want somebody to get in the boat with me and help
yeah,
me sink faster. I
yeah,
want somebody to say, Kelly, get out of the boat. You know how to swim. Just
yep,
get out of the boat, go find another boat, do whatever it is that you need to do. And that really is, something that you need to invest in. As much as this sounds, and it's one of those, it's foreign to most people. You need to invest in personal relationships that are going to elevate your level of success. And that's what masterminds really do.
yeah. So while we're on GoBundance, tell me a little bit more about the women's GoBundance
Yeah.
and kind of what you guys do and what you're excited about in the future here.
Absolutely. So the first thing, that we do is we provide just a network of amazing like-minded women. It is peer mentorship. We do offer, mindset and group coaching within it and an 8-week, basically a growth accelerator program to help you grow your business. But from there, you're put into a pod with other women that you meet on a regular basis. And we do provide that level of accountability that we need. I do believe we all have that 5-year-old that's like in us, that's like, I want to do what I want when I want to do, when I want to do it. And I need somebody to say, you know what, you committed to working out 3 times a week? Like, what's
Mhm.
going on? Like, what's going to get you there? Or why are you dragging your feet on making this decision? You've been talking about the same thing. Like, what's it going to take to get you to make that decision?
How often does
You
that
know,
happen, right?
yeah, we do master classes with amazing speakers and then, awesome events. We just got back from Costa Rica, had 65 amazing women that were down there to
Mm,
play and connect and strategize about, building our empires. So that's just kind of an overview of what GoBundance Women does.
that's cool. That's cool. And if somebody's like, "Hey, that sounds really cool," where do they go to
Yeah,
learn more?
the best thing to do is just go to www.downloadthepod.com. I've got a great 3-part series for you
Hmm,
on really overcoming self-sabotage and taking your life and business to the next level. So just you can check it out and I'll give you all the information on GoBundance Women as well.
love it. Okay, I got a few last questions, Kelly, before we wrap up. What's a
Yeah.
favorite book that you mentioned The Power of Now?
Yes.
What's another? You gotta come up with one more since you just earlier
Yeah.
mentioned, you know.
I'll tell you my favorite one, and which I wish that I had read it before Power of Now, because if you've read Power of Now, it's not the easiest read ever.
No.
I would say Untethered Soul.
Oh,
And absolute beautiful, very similar concepts. I wrote more strategically in my book, Big Voices, about, thought management strategies and whatnot. But in Untethered Soul, I just believe that he did a beautiful job and kind of sharing how you can look at this false self, how you can look at this, companion in our head that's with us along the way.
I know you're a perfectionist. You haven't made many mistakes at all, but if you can dig deep, what's one mistake that you've made, and how can our listeners learn from it?
Yeah, mistakes are interesting because I truly believe that life happens exactly the way that it's supposed to unfold for you.
Yeah.
However, I stayed in a career in mortgage, being, running a large team for years after I knew it wasn't for me. And
Was it
when I
just a
made the
comfort thing? What
I think certainty is one of those things.
certainty?
I think a lot of
Mhm.
times we set ourselves up, when it comes to our finances. And so not knowing or believing that I'd be able to make this amount of money in something different. It was a limiting belief that I had that I
Yeah.
didn't even know I had. And so that truly would have been I would have journeyed out much sooner and done something much differently. I mean, I'm grateful that I've been here at GoodLeap for 13 years and have been on this amazing adventure and scaling this organization, but at the same time, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, yours and mine are similar. You know, I stayed I was flipping houses for forever
Yeah.
and buying smaller you know, single families, duplexes, and it's the same thing. Like I just I tell people, I said I got fat and happy. And by that I mean I just got like complacent. I was just
Yeah.
like I know how to do this. I'm doing it. Like there's little risk because I got so good at it.
Yep.
And I didn't step outside of my comfort zone to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Um, all right, last question. What are your three pillars of wealth creation?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would say when it comes to wealth creation, because I truly believe abundance is our birthright, 100% our
Mm,
birthright. But the first pillar of wealth creation is owning your worthiness,
mm.
really having that great relationship with self, prioritizing your physical and emotional well-being is a pillar that you must possess to get to this next level of wealth creation. The second pillar of wealth creation for me is actually, just how I view money. What's my relationship with money? How do I really see, how do I see it flow? How do I make sure that I treat it the way that it needs to be treated? and, diversification when it comes to wealth and whatnot. I'm so grateful that I've learned a lot of lessons about, if you make a lot of income in one sector, you don't want to have a lot of your investments in the same one, just so that you are protected a little bit more. So, having that strategy about money and
Mhm.
understanding, do I have any abundance blocks? Like what do I need to do in order to attract it at the next level? And the third pillar of wealth creation for me is contribution. If you are not giving back on a high level, I'm a 10 percenter. I take and tithe 10%. I work for an organization, GoodLeap. We have a major impact project called givepower.org. Close to 1 million people have clean water today because of our water desalination plants. And that's the way we operate. With every loan we do, we invest in Give Power. And so part of that pillar, those three pillars, are that you've got to make sure that you feel fantastic, because you're going to be in a much better place to be able to attract money. Second one really is just having that strategy about where your assets are and how you earn income. And the third one is always contribution for me, because I do know that the reason why I live a blessed life and I've created, the level of wealth that I have is because I give back relentlessly, no matter what.
Awesome. Kelly, look, really appreciate this and the value you've added. Listeners, you're going to have to go back and re-listen to at least parts of this again. I mean, from talking about how people sabotage themselves to just your mindset and how you approach, the mortgage business and business in general, and just doing something different outside to stand apart. And then, you know what? Contribution, you're contributing here big time by giving us just a ton of value in this episode. So I really appreciate you coming on the show, talking about Go Abundance, talking about kind of what you're doing in life to really be a leader and show up in awesome ways. So really appreciate you. And thanks for coming on the show. How can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more
Yeah,
about what
just
you
head
got
over
going on?
to downloadthepod.com and it'll take you directly where you need to go. So
Awesome.
excited to connect with all your listeners. And thank you so much, Todd, for having me. It's one of my favorite, topics to talk about and share. So hopefully I made a little impact today.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate you and have a fantastic rest of the day.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. Say, I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. But your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.